During Friendsgiving, I discovered my husband and his two friends had a hot tub pee game where they peed in the hot tub while I was in it. Last night we did a small Friendsgiving at my husband's parents' house who are out of town. It was mainly centered around his boyhood social circle, most of whom still have a family that live in the neighborhood. After we got done eating, a few of us decided that it would be nice to relax in the hot tub and look at the lights of the city. We had been there for maybe 5 minutes and my husband said, "Everyone ready?" His two friends gave a thumbs up and then in succession they each said done. My husband's friend Sakim said it was done last and they all started laughing and the other two said, "Okay, we'll buy the next round." It was an obvious inside joke so I asked what they meant and they started laughing and explained the hot tub pee game that they had been playing since they were like 5 years old. I wanted to throw up and asked if they seriously all just peed in the hot tub. My husband said yes and it's no big deal. I was disgusted so I got out, took an hour-long shower and went to sleep in his sister's old bedroom and decided I didn't want to talk to him until today. Today I feel like I've calmly approached him and tried to explain how dirty he made me feel. How unsanitary it was and how, while I appreciate that he has these long-running rituals with his friends, he needs to stop the ones that would make him laugh in middle school and for certain leave me out of them. All he keeps telling me is relax, you're making way too big a deal of this. I am sick of hearing him make excuses for this disgusting and childish behavior. How do I approach him to make him appreciate that I need him to never do this again? Top comment. Competitive_cuddling. Next time you're on your period, mark his forehead with your blood like Rafiki did Simba to assert dominance. Update post. I posted about this on Friday morning. We spent all day Friday fighting about how not only was it disrespectful but that he refused to even acknowledge my issues with literally being peed on. Around 10 p.m. I told him that if he said you're making way too big a deal of this, one more time, I was going to file for divorce. He said it almost like he was daring me. TLDR, my mom and I are going to talk to an attorney today. My dad is a partner in his accounting firm and he thinks that since we are young and don't really have much, the divorce should be very quick and simple. My STB ex-husband has tried to call God knows how many times to apologize and saying he gets it now but it's way too late for that. It was too late for that when he and his friends did the initial act. I have more self-respect than that. Relevant comments. Commenter. Well, I think it had less to do with the peeing and more to do with dismissing how you felt about it. He kept saying it's not a big deal but he could have just been apologetic and understanding from the start. OP. When I approached him on Friday morning to calmly talk about this, if he would have said, "I'm sorry, that was very rude of us and I will never do this type of thing ever again no matter who I'm with," I could have easily gotten past this. Commenter. Good for you. I do not understand people saying this is an overreaction. The person who is supposed to always have your best interests closest to his heart demonstrated that he doesn't care about your consent. He doesn't care about your boundaries. He doesn't care about your feelings. Like, why stay married to someone who can't even meet the baseline for decency? The only way I would consider staying would be a promise from him to seek therapy individually and as a couple. And he would need to apologize to you in front of those friends. And explain to those friends that what they did was not okay and why. And end that dumb childish game for good. And take a course in boundaries and consent. OP, I think if he were to come up with your second paragraph, on his own, not guiding him, I might be able to forgive him and cooperate. I also think he should ditch his childhood friends and grow up, but again I'm not going to lead him to that decision. Commenter. I'd be careful of anything he says now though, as he could find this post, see your comment and just tell you exactly what you want to hear. OP, for sure, he's on Reddit all the time and even listens to Reddit posts on YouTube but I should have clarified the time for him to do that was Friday. Now I'm so over it. Commenter. Info, have you texted your soon-to-be ex-in-laws to let them know they gotta clean their hot tub? OP, I sent my MIL an email but I don't think she read that part because she only responded with how heartbroken she is that I'm divorcing her son and she felt like she deserved an explanation. I did my part warning her about the dirty hot tub, but I don't owe her anything. Commenter, not your fault she's not going to listen and continue to chill in bubbling stale pee. I mean that it is funny that she wants an explanation like a woman. Your son and his friends all peed in your hot tub while I was in it. Like if she's cool with that, she needs to reconsider her bar on hygiene. Ain't your circus and ain't your monkeys anymore. OP, to be fair, I didn't tell her about him peeing on me. I don't ever want to bring that up to anyone, unless it's needed in the divorce for me to get spousal maintenance, so unless he told her, which I really doubt, I don't know is the real reason. But like you said it's not my thing anymore. He can tell her whatever he likes. Editor's note, spousal maintenance is the same thing as alimony. On spousal maintenance, I've supported him through a master's degree. I think state law says I'm entitled to 40% of his salary for half the number of years we were married. It will help me take some time off, get over the divorce and get on my feet again. Commenter, how long have you been married for? OP, just over 5 years. Commenter, deleted. Your husband dodged a bullet there. OP, I truly hope he feels that way. Judging by the 57 texts he's sent me just this morning. I don't think he does. Commenter, downvoted. LOL, are you guys seriously trying to defend this lady's delusional 5-year-old mind? Just say it out loud, I am getting a divorce because my husband peed in a hot tub. OP, I've been saying to myself for 3 days now and it sounds more right than ever. Commenter, downvoted. It's pretty obvious you do not love him LOL. It's cool if you want to bail but threatening divorce in the middle of an argument is petty as fuck. OP, I loved him very much until Friday when he said you're making way too big a deal of this, for the 10000 the time. Then I was over it. Mini comment update, a few hours later. We are meeting with a lawyer in an hour. My mom keeps telling me to document everything as it will turn out better for me money-wise. My dad stole my identity and opened 3 credit cards in my name. He told me that since I'm young I can do without for a few years. I found that my dad used my information to open 3 credit cards over the last year. When I went to get a pre-approval for a mortgage, I was told by the lender they wouldn't be able to give me a home loan because of the defaulted credit cards. They also said I probably wouldn't be able to get a loan from any lender because of it and gave me a sheet of paper explaining what I'd need to do in order to fix it. When I tried disputing the cards, one of which is already in collections, the disputes got closed out as the debts were verified. I told my divorced parents about it and their answers were pretty wildly different. My dad said that these things happen, and that I should be more careful in the future with my social security number. Seeing as I've always been careful, that made me pretty mad. My mom said she thinks my dad might have something to do with it since opening credit cards in her name had a part to play in their divorce. She told me he ran up about $50,000 in credit card debt on secret credit cards. A few days ago, I ended up casually telling my dad I'm going to have to file a police report for the credit cards. He told me I probably shouldn't do that because $15,000 isn't that much in the grand scheme of things. When I told him it was keeping me from buying a house, he said I could just wait a few years until they fell off of my credit report. He said it would only take another 4.5 years. When I told him I obviously couldn't wait that long so I had to file the police report, he straight up told me not to do it and to just be more careful in the future. Once I told him I already got the paperwork together from the credit agencies, he told me he had opened the cards to pay for living expenses over the last year. He said his work slowed down a little bit but he'd do what he could to help pay it off. He said it would ruin his life if he went to jail. I'm leaning towards going to the police anyway. But I didn't right that minute. I have everything in front of me today to go make the report. I guess I just want to make sure turning it over to the police is the right thing to do here. Especially if I'm wanting to buy a house this year. Top comments. Comment 1, report him for fraud. OP, that's what I'm leaning towards. I'm realizing if I want to buy a house, I can't have those accounts on my credit. Comment 2, if he wasn't your dad you'd have reported him already, right? Well, think about this. Why didn't he give you the same respect and not ruin your credit because he's your father? Update 1. I spent about half of the day reading everyone's comments and it pretty much solidified what I was going to do. The process itself was pretty easy. I went to the police department and the person at the front desk had me wait about 10 minutes before an officer came out. We talked for about 15 minutes and he made copies of all of the paperwork I gave him. He told me the case would be assigned to a detective on Tuesday and gave me a pamphlet about how to contact the credit agencies. I was given a report number and was told I could use that now to start disputing the accounts. A detective is going to follow up with me in the next couple of weeks. I asked what would end up happening to my dad and the officer said it looked pretty clear cut to him, but the charging decision is 100% with the state attorney's office. He said if they decide to pursue charges, he'll likely get a warrant put out for his arrest. He also said typically if this is his first felony, he's probably going to get some sort of pre-trial diversion with court supervision or probation. He probably won't go to jail for years, but if he gets picked up on a warrant he's going to spend at least a little bit of time behind bars. I've decided I'm okay with that because it's obvious to me he did this purposefully. He's never been arrested before so hopefully this is a wake-up call for him. At the same time, he completely did this to himself. I'll update whenever I learn more. Top comments. Comment 1, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Sincerely hope everything works out well for you. OP, I think it will. From what I understand, it might take a month or two for the cards to come off of my credit, but once they do, my credit score should shoot up. Comment 2, well done OP. I was so mad on your behalf reading the first post, it would take everything in me not to use his words against him. Jail time? It's just a few years. You've ruined my life. No. You did it by trying to ruin mine. I hope the marks come off your credit report like it's made of Teflon. Good luck on your home ownership journey. Update 2. There's been some good, a little bad, and a little real bad progress the past few days. The good, I used my report number and disputed every account. When I checked my credit last, which everyone should be doing regularly, the one with the lowest balance was already off of my account. The other cards and the collection account are still showing, but I have hope they'll be falling off in the next few weeks. I also received a call from someone at the prosecutor's office who had a couple of extra questions for me and asked if I would be willing to testify if they charged him. I said yes, and they said they would be making a decision on their charges before the end of the month. The bad, obviously, someone talked to my dad about this because the last time he talked, he scolded me for going to the police and hasn't talked to me since. One of my brothers was also pretty mad at me about it and hasn't talked to me in over a week. The rest of my siblings and my mom understood where I was coming from. The real bad, one of my other brothers, not the one who was pissed, found 2 open credit cards on his credit which weren't his. He checked his credit score for the first time in a couple of years and he said it was down about 150 points from where it used to be. He's now in the process of dealing with that. He doesn't have any positive proof, yet, that it was our dad. But the fingers are pointing in that direction. This still blows my mind that a dad could do this to his own children. I'm moving forward though, I still hope to be able to purchase a house before the end of the year. Additional information from OP, also, I think all of my other siblings, there are 6 of us, are checking their credit too. Probably for the best. New update. This is going to be my final update as it seems like this has gone viral and hit a few different big websites. I'm happy to say my credit has completely returned to normal. All of the disputed accounts are now gone. Obviously, I'm excited about this since it gives me a solid financial future. I also received a letter from the prosecutor's office 2 weeks ago and they said they are going forward with a charge of what is basically identity theft. I spoke with an assistant prosecutor and they explained they'd be putting out a warrant shortly, but that as a first-time offender, they'd probably offer a misdemeanor charge and a plea. My dad was arrested last Friday after a traffic stop. He got out of jail the next day and has a new court date in late August according to the public records website. He called me and told me I'm dead to him and to never contact him again. My brother who found credit cards opened in his name has made a police report as well, but apparently the addresses are different on the accounts. He was told it was unlikely it would be prosecuted, but he's working on getting them off of his credit. Additional information from OP, just wanted to give everyone who commented in my other posts a shout out. You have all given me the courage to do this. I'm going to be deleting this throwaway because I really hope to put all of this behind me between the news articles and having no contact with my dad. Don't let things like this sneak up on you. It breaks my heart to do this to my dad, but he did this to himself. My wife and I recently encountered a significant issue with her parents because they used X39 patches on our daughter without our consent. I know how the title sounds, but please bear with me. Throwaway for obvious reasons. I, 24, and my wife, 24, recently had our daughter in July. She is the best thing to ever happen to my wife and I, and we couldn't be more thrilled to have our little bundle of joy. She recently got sick while staying with her grandparents, my in-laws, while my wife and I took a trip for work. For context, my in-laws are really big into LifeWave X39. It's a patch that supposedly helps regrow stem cells by reflecting light rays back into your body, allowing your body to produce more stem cells to fight off diseases and sickness. If you ask me, it sounds like snake oil and my wife agrees, calling it a pyramid scheme. The only way to get said patches is by spending well over $1,000, and then you're tasked with selling the patches yourself. It's essentially some multi-level marketing product, where the more patches you sell, the more money you make. Falling right in line with my wife's comparison to a pyramid scheme, but MLMs are somehow legal. Now I've tried doing research on X39, and the only comments I've seen praise said product are brand new accounts never used before or after, or their entire profile is dedicated to shilling out for LifeWave/X39. In my own research, they appear to just be overpriced stickers. They contain no medication, no special UV rays or anything of the sort. They're literally just an overpriced sticker with an air bubble. But my wife and I have made it very clear that we wanted no part in X39, nor did we want our daughter to have it. Even if it's fake, we wanted no part in it, and on the off chance it did something, I didn't want our daughter to be used as their lab rat or guinea pig. Now before we left our daughter with my in-laws, we provided them with some infant medication, just in case she got sick. Can never be too safe, you know? Well, we returned home from the work trip early because our daughter wasn't getting any better, so we picked her up and went home. We were going to give her a bath, and in the process of taking her jacket off, we found an X39 patch on her arm. Upon finding it, we immediately called her parents and demanded to know why she had a patch on her. Her parents tried saying that, it's safe for the baby, we even ordered the ones for ages 7 and younger. And that, it's practically medication. Their words. Which still didn't answer our question. So my wife checked the go bag, and the Motrin we gave them was, while it was used, not used very much at all. Her parents tried claiming that someone else in their group or whatever gave it to their son and they got better in a week. Point is, we didn't buy it nor did we care. We've made it abundantly clear that we wanted nothing to do with X39 and we didn't want our daughter to be a part of it. They failed to listen. My wife was on the phone with them for over an hour, and while I don't know the exact length the conversation went to, I know it at least ended with her screaming, "Going to see my fucking daughter again, and if you attempt to come to my house we will call the police." Before hanging up. That was 3 days ago now, and we've had several missed calls from family members, her parents, her siblings and even family friends all saying that we overreacted, and they were just trying to help. Maybe we overreacted, but we wanted nothing to do with that, and despite making it clear, they went against our wishes and did it anyway. And instead of giving my daughter actual medication, they try to give her some placebo patch. Her parents tried claiming that we're stopping them from seeing their only grandchild over something so small. But we did want to hear it. Relevant comments. Comment 1. I kinda think you Tosh for leaving your sick baby to go out of town. OP, we didn't leave a sick baby to go out of town. We left her with her grandparents while she was fine. We only packed Motrin because, as I stated in my post, you can never be too careful. She got sick while we were out of town, not before. Comment 2, you say that like it's snake oil, like it's just as bad as the X39. Was it Advil and cough syrup? Or just a generic bottle that you wrote infant medication on? You expect us to believe that you gave them medication just in case she got sick and then she immediately got sick? Come on, this sounds like total BS. OP, her grandparents don't exactly have children medication laying around. We packed her Motrin, which I quite literally stated later in the post had you read it, not some generic bottle, or snake oil, and just as bad. Nor do they have the ability to really go anywhere. They live a good 30-40 minutes outside of any nearby town. The drive to and from her parents is a grand whole hour drive from where we live. And my wife and I quite literally work with sick people all the time. No, I'm not a doctor, nor do we have medical expertise. So my wife and I contracting something is usually pretty high, so we pack Motrin or whatever the store brand is that we'll buy, every time we left her with her grandparents for more than a day. Update 1, about a month ago I made this post ranting about my in-laws' weird obsession with a, for lack of a better term, cult regarding stem cell regeneration through patches, which, clearly isn't a real thing. There's been some development on that end, and while I'm confident things will likely end here, I wanted to give a quick update for those who may have been curious. I'm writing this on the toilet at work, so don't mind the rushiness of it all. After my wife essentially cut ties with them and we all received a million phone calls and text messages from family and friends, things quieted down for about a week or two. We started having my sister watch our daughter instead, when we had to work. We haven't had another out-of-trip town since the initial post, however. Through those couple of weeks we never really heard anything beyond a couple of supposed shit-talking posts on Facebook bitching about us, but I can't seem to find the posts. We thought things were, probably, hopefully, going to end there, but boy were we wrong. And this is quite the jump from the last post. My wife and I were visited by CPS about 2 weeks ago or so, after they received concerning calls about supposed child abuse and negligence within the household. Of course, nothing like that happened and the caseworker was very quick to see that. We had asked who reported her, and while she couldn't say, we had a suspicion it was from her parents. We were completely helpful and cooperative with the caseworker, and after she left that night, my wife called her mom up and asked her if she's the one who called CPS. Surprisingly, her mother took full accountability, but not so surprisingly, tried to spin it around in her favor, claiming that she did it for our own good because our daughter was sick and she wasn't getting any better, when she was there so clearly we were doing something awful as parents. Kids get sick, it happens, but they're also extreme anti-vaxxers. Not just COVID, I mean everything. From even something as trivial as the flu shot. Yet, they're willing to shill out thousands of dollars for some supposed stem cell regeneration sticker. The fucking hypocrisy and irony in their bullshit is unmatched. My wife didn't really know how to react to that, so she basically told her mom to go fuck herself, and she wants nothing to do with her again. I know I saw a few comments on the last post saying maybe we shouldn't have cut them out entirely, but now I'm starting to question why we didn't cut them out years ago, before our daughter was even a thought in our heads. About a week after the first audit, my mother-in-law showed up to our house on my day off while my wife was at work, and essentially demanded to see our daughter, forcing her way into our home by pushing past my arm. When I told her to get the hell out of my house, she had no business matching in here like that. She essentially told me that I'm unfit to be a parent because I'm depriving my daughter of help she desperately needed, because she's clearly a very sick child. My daughter is perfectly healthy right now, and in fact, has had no stuffy nose and no high temperature. Nothing. I told my MIL straight up that she was batshit insane. I went off on her about how she lied to us, went against our wishes, had the audacity to call and lie to CPS, and then show up at our house unannounced, uninvited, and march herself inside, as well as everything about her X39 LifeWave bullshit. We argued there for a while, before I finally got so fed up. I told her to leave my house before I called the police. She stormed out of the house, and in true Karen fashion, said, "This isn't over," before slamming my door. I immediately called my wife, who was of course irate. The following morning, we filed a restraining order at the courthouse from her mom and dad, because they're clearly not in their right mindset. The caseworker had to audit us a few more times as per their guidelines over the past 2 weeks, and yesterday was her last day, where she informed us that we're doing good and she's sorry for the trouble they caused. We kept her up to speed on the LifeWave shit, the showing up unannounced and the restraining order, and though she couldn't really take a side, she seemed apologetic. But my wife and I are pretty livid. We started looking at houses in another state to get as far away from her in-laws as possible. Our company has offices out there, so it's entirely possible we could just be transferred. So we're crossing our fingers that all goes well, the restraining order gets filed soon enough, and we'll get a place clear across the country so that this will hopefully be my last update. New update. Things aren't going to be as juicy in this post as the last two, but some new things have happened, so I'll just jump right in. After my in-laws called CPS on us for no discernible reasons other than we forbid them from seeing our daughter, things mostly quieted down. Some of you suggested that we should do more than just get a restraining order, so we bought some security cameras and had them installed all around our property, and our neighbors, who are pretty good friends of ours, was in the loop for the most part, and anytime we had to go somewhere, not only did we have video cameras recording every time someone entered our driveway displayed directly on our phones, our neighbors kept us updated too. She stopped coming around for the first few months since she called CPS on us, but just the month before last, as we were preparing to move, my in-laws somehow got word we planned on moving states and attempted to block our driveway as her dad tried blocking the front door. Not sure what their plan was there because we have a back door and an extra side door leading from the kitchen, but I digress. Her mom blocked the driveway, stopping our U-Haul or car from leaving the property, and wouldn't budge, even after we told them we would call the police. They told us they'd move if we told them where we were moving to, but my wife told them that that wasn't happening and they had 10 minutes to leave or we'd be calling the police. My neighbor came over during the commotion, but my in-laws still wouldn't budge. My daughter is crying during all of this as my wife is trying to console her, as my neighbor and I are attempting to remove my father-in-law from the doorway, but he wouldn't move. Eventually my wife called the police, and I'm guessing another neighbor called them as well because they responded within mere minutes. My in-laws kept screaming that we were taking their rightful grandchild away, and that we'd all be damned to burn in hell for this, but honestly that just made me laugh. The police kept asking them to leave, but they wouldn't. Eventually they were arrested for refusing to leave, and the police were nice enough to call a tow truck for us to be able to back out of the driveway. Lo and behold, as the police were handcuffing my in-laws, they both had on those X39 patches, and even the police questioned them about it. But whatever, what's done is done. We were able to finally leave and on to new adventures. We've been settled in at our new house for the better part of over a month, and we're enjoying it greatly. No word from her in-laws, and they have no idea where we are. We have them blocked, but we'll eventually get messages from unknown numbers, or Facebook accounts asking where we moved, but there's no way they're that foolish to believe we'll actually tell them. Luckily, neither my last state or this one have any grandparents' rights, so we're in the clear there. Thank you everyone, hopefully this is my last update. Relevant comments. Comment 1, seriously look into a P.O. box and have all mail routed there. OP, hey there. We actually did get our mail routed to a P.O. box. Comment 2, why were they not arrested for violating a restraining order? OP, we informed the police they had a restraining order, I just don't think they cared. They were more concerned with getting them off our property as opposed to them violating the restraining order. I think one of their final charges after being arrested was violation of a restraining order though. The police just didn't seem to care at the time, which is unfortunate, to say the least.
How do I tell my host mom about her son's weird behavior? I feel like she won't believe me, and I don't know what to do. Original post, July 1st, 2024. I never thought this would happen. I cannot sleep tonight because of how helpless I feel in this situation. I am an au pair. I started at 19, went to Australia, and took care of 2 little girls, and I loved it. After a year, I came back home and went to college. But I decided that I wanted to travel again because I'm interested in teaching English abroad one day. I met a really great family on an accredited website that I used last time for my au pair match. I met a German family. They really liked me and I really liked them and the area. I have always wanted to go to Germany, so after about 3 months of talking and making sure there was no other family I wanted to go with more, we went through with it. Now I am in Germany, and I have been here for 2 months. They have 3 children, all boys, including a 1-year-old who is the cutest thing on earth, a 14-year-old who is friendly and sweet, and a 17-year-old who I do not really provide much care for. He kept to himself a lot and did not talk much with me, which I did not mind because I'm mainly there for the 2 younger ones. But some weird things started happening. I began to notice that he started staring at me a lot whenever we were alone, or even at family dinner. He walks up to me at times and it sounds like he's asking me questions in German, but I can't understand him. The oldest boys can speak English. When I tell him I don't understand him, he just walks away. I asked his brother once what he asked, and he said it was something bad, and he's told his brother to stop, but he won't listen. Then, over these past 2 weeks, he's made accidental contact with me. Sometimes he will brush up against me even when there's enough room for us to not bump into each other. 1 or 2 times, when this happened, I felt something on my waist, like his hand, but I thought maybe it was an accident. Now that they are out of school, we're alone at the house during the day while the parents work, and sometimes when I'm playing with the baby he will come and play with the baby too, but he will be very close to me, like to the point where I have no personal space. I have had to tell him a few times to give me space, and his younger brother has even said the same thing. Still, for some reason, I thought maybe he was just shy before and was starting to get comfortable with me. I did not want to jump to conclusions or label him as anything, so most of this I have let go. I really like hanging out with the baby and playing board games and other activities with the 14-year-old. He is a funny, nice kid. But the bad thing that really happened was yesterday. The family went for a walk, and I stayed behind because I had bad cramps. The oldest boy also said he did not feel like walking, so he stayed behind. We were there alone, and after they had left I tried to go to my room, but he blocked me. I kept asking him to move, but he kept blocking me. The look on his face, like he thought it was funny, scared me. He would not speak English with me when I kept asking him why he was doing this, and at this point, I felt scared and decided to walk the other way. I was going to hide in a bathroom until the others came back. But then he grabbed my arm and forced my body against his. I do not know if it was a forced hug or what, but I tried to pull away, but he reacted by tightening his grip, so I just froze. He let me go after a few seconds and just left the room. When the family came back, I went into my room for the night because I felt like I would just start crying in front of them. I do not know what I should do. I feel ashamed that I could not fight him off, and that I am literally being harassed by a boy so much younger than me. I am scared to tell the host parents because I can tell they love their son a lot, and at the end of the day, I am just a random girl that they have only known for 2 months. I am torn because I love the younger 2 so much already and wanted to have a good time in Germany. But this boy is acting so weird. I do not know why he went from basically ignoring me to doing this. I know that despite all of this I should probably try to talk to the host parents, probably my host mom, as I am more comfortable sharing this with her. But I just do not know how to bring that up. How do I basically tell her that her son did something really weird to me? I never thought I would have to do this or be in a situation like this, and I need some help. Please. Too long. Didn't read. I am an au pair. One of the boys who I live with has consistently been doing weird things to me, and yesterday, he forced me into a hug. I know I probably need to tell the host parents, but I don't know what to even say. I feel so helpless and alone right now. Update, July 3rd, 2024. Hello, I posted not so long ago about a really bad situation. I hope that it's okay for me to post an update even though it was removed. I received a lot of people reaching out to me asking if I was okay and if I could provide an update, so I wanted to give some closure. In short, I am an au pair in Germany and was being harassed by my host parent's son, who is 17 years old. He basically assaulted me, and although it is still hard for me to come to full terms with that word, I now know that it was, in fact, what it was. Yesterday was my day off, and after reading through everyone's advice, I contacted my agency that morning. I made sure to first get out of the house so no one would overhear me and to get away from the older boy. The younger boy, who is 14 years old, asked me if he could go with me as I was going to the library, and I did not mind taking him. Although technically he could go by himself, I see older children walking around alone a lot in Germany, but he specifically kept asking to go with me, and like I said before, he is a really good kid to be around, so I did not mind. I was planning to go to a closed-off area and make my phone calls while he went around looking for books, but while we were walking to the library, I could tell he wanted to say something. After a while, I asked if there was anything wrong, and after a bit of a pause, he asked me nervously if I was okay and if anything had happened yesterday. He said he was wondering why he did not see me at all anymore after they came back home. I did not say anything at first because I did not want to tell him inappropriate information. I told him I just had bad cramps, which was true, and wanted to sleep. But he is a smart kid, and I think he knew, because he asked if it was because of his older brother. When I did not say anything, as I was so caught off guard by his questions, he asked if I was leaving. He honestly looked so sad. He said he was sorry and that he hoped I did not have a bad impression of Germany now. I almost cried because of how depressed he sounded. I told him not to worry about it and that it had nothing to do with Germany, him, or the baby, and that I would be okay. So I finally contacted my agency when we arrived at the library. I was so nervous that I was shaking when I made the call, but they were amazing and took everything I was saying seriously. I just told them that the oldest child was making me feel unsafe, and in vague terms what happened, without going into too much detail. They understood, thankfully, what I meant and told me that they would work on replacing me, if that's what I wanted. They also said they would reach out to the family to let them know of what was happening and of my concern with their son. I then called my mom. Being a mother, after I told her everything that had happened, she yelled at me a little. Not in an abusive way, but for not telling her sooner, and told me very sternly that I was not going back to that house tonight. Even being an adult, I don't argue with my mom when she uses that type of tone. She sounded so frantic, and sent me money to stay at a hotel for a while until they found me a new placement, even though she really just wanted me to come home. I felt a lot better after talking to her. After a while, the younger boy came back over and told me, very plainly, I am going to tell Mom. He would not listen to me when I told him not to, or not to put himself in that situation. I can handle it. He seemed very angry. He tried to reassure me that his parents would listen, and that they know that older brother causes trouble sometimes. They had another girl, a few years ago, that left because of him, and everyone thought maybe since he'd grown up and changed it would be different. I stayed at the library while he went home, and just waited. I did not know what was going to happen. I already had a hotel booked by then and knew I would probably need to go back to get my stuff. About an hour and a half later, I left the library. Since the parents were at home today, I felt somewhat safe going back to get my stuff. Before I got back, I received a call. It was from my host mom. When I answered, she was very frantic. She asked me if I was okay, and where I was. When I got to the house, the parents were in somewhat of an argument. I didn't understand all of it, because they went between German and English, but I heard some words like, not again, and ruining. In short, the mother pulled me aside. She said that she wasn't aware that the oldest son was still like this. She begged me not to leave. She told me she wanted her two youngest sons to have healthy attachments to their caregivers, and that it was very hard for them to do this with the oldest. She was actually crying during all of this, and told me she doesn't know why he acts like that, but she did not raise him like that. And that while she loved her son, she was not going to tolerate that behavior anymore. She said that once he turns 18 next week, I had no idea his birthday was next week, he will have to go live with his uncle and cousin in the Netherlands, for the sake of everyone in the house. She told me they, the parents, discussed it a bit when the first incident happened, but since he seemed to act better, they dropped it at the time. When I asked where he was, she said that he left quickly when his brother came home, saying he was going to a friend's house. He probably will not be back, and she said that even if he does, she will not let him in, and will tell him to go to his aunt's, who lives not that far, until he can go to the Netherlands. She actually looked very sincere and stern when she said this, and even though the father looked like he was in shock, he agreed with what she said. I did not know how to respond to them. It was not the reaction I was expecting, but I wanted to be honest. I told her that I was going to stay at a hotel for a while, and that she would probably hear from the agency. I told her that I loved the two younger boys, but I might not be back. She said she understood but would appreciate it if I at least thought about it for a day or two. Before I left, I hugged the baby and the 14-year-old goodbye. So that is what happened. I am safe in the hotel now. I didn't at all expect that reaction from them. I felt almost sick with worry when I wrote my first post. Of not being believed. But even though the oldest boy probably won't be back and will eventually be forced to leave, I still feel the effects of what happened lingering. I still feel vulnerable and overwhelmed when I even think about what happened. I feel so bad for the younger children. I'm not sure if I should go back or not. She told me to think about it. I will give it some time and see what my agency says first about other placements. I just wanted to thank everyone for helping me through something really difficult. But I am safe now in this hotel and am not going to rush back into any situation without thinking over my options and asking for my mom's opinion. Thank you once again. Too long, didn't read. I contacted my agency and mom. Both listened and took me seriously. I am now safe in a hotel, and am waiting for my agency to get back with me on possible placements. My mom is helping support me financially and emotionally while I wait. The host parents find out about what happened. The 14-YO told them, and reacted in a way I did not expect. They are begging me to stay, saying that the oldest boy will be sent to live with relatives for his behavior once he turns 18. I am not sure if I will go back, although I miss the younger two. I am going to wait until my agency gets back with me first before taking next steps. Thank you to everyone who reached out and helped me. Added comments. Commenter, as a German, this post infuriates me. First of all, therapy is free here. It sounds like the parents did absolutely nothing when this happened for the first time. They just hoped and thought their son got better. Secondly, the fact that they just want to get rid of their son by pushing him onto someone else instead of wanting him to face actual consequences, like going to the police with OP, is also infuriating. German police aren't perfect, but my own experiences with them have been genuinely good, and I want to encourage OP to go to the police. Lastly, the parents are trying to make OP stay in a house where she was assaulted. That alone is so utterly tone deaf that it's hard to believe. Sorry, Netherlands. OP. Yeah, I've officially made up my mind that I'm not going back there. It hurts because I do love the younger children so much. I hope they will be okay. The kids I watch become a part of me in a way. I still keep in contact with the family from Australia, and the younger ones here really seemed comfortable around me. The mom even said they usually aren't as open at first with new people like they were with me. I might still keep the host mom's contact info just to see if I can check up on them every now and then, purely for that purpose. Now that I'm really reflecting on it, it was a little strange that she still wanted me to stay after what happened. I thought maybe, for my mental health, she would encourage me to leave. But I think she is desperate for an au pair since they work a lot. It's amazing that therapy is free. I will suggest to the host mom that maybe the 14-year-old might need someone to talk to. I made sure to tell him that I was not abandoning him, and he seemed to understand. He is very level-headed for his age. I know he will continue to grow into an even more amazing young adult as he gets older. He told me he wouldn't forget me, and he would tell his baby brother about me a lot, so he will always remember too. It's also good to hear about the police. I always worry about being a foreign girl and not being taken seriously in another country. I am going to reach out to the Weiser Ring, like another poster suggested, and see if they can help me in that aspect. I feel bad for the people that might encounter him in the Netherlands, but I heard they don't play around there. So I hope he gets some sense into him soon. But there are vulnerable girls and women everywhere, so it does leave me with a sad feeling. OP makes another update in the comments. To give an update, I spoke with the agency sometime earlier today and asked them if there have been other au pairs with this family. They said this is their first time placing someone with the family, and if another au pair was with the family before, it was probably through another agency, but they had no knowledge of this, and when they interviewed the family was told this was a new experience for them. I am thinking maybe the other girl was through another agency. There are a few of them. I'm not sure that all au pair agencies can see each other's networks, but they said they will look further into it. They told me that for now, they will not be placing any new girls with this family, so that gave me some peace of mind. OP makes another update in the comments. To give an update, I spoke with the agency sometime earlier today and asked them if there have been other au pairs with this family. They said this is their first time placing someone with the family, and if another au pair was with the family before, it was probably through another agency, but they had no knowledge of this, and when they interviewed the family was told this was a new experience for them. I am thinking maybe the other girl was through another agency. There are a few of them. I'm not sure that all au pair agencies can see each other's networks, but they said they will look further into it. They told me that for now, they will not be placing any new girls with this family. So that gave me some peace of mind.
I found out I was pregnant with my fourth child not long after divorcing my husband. I'm conflicted about whether I should keep this baby. This is long. I'm sorry, I've sort of written a novel here. I wanted to post this in a relationship advice group, but the subject matter isn't allowed. My ex-husband and I were married for 10 years, although the last 2 were spent in variations of separation. We've been divorced for roughly a year. We have 3 kids, 10, 8, 5, I'm pregnant with our 4th baby. I don't know if we'll actually be parents to 4 kids or not. I'm so conflicted. We are so conflicted. There was no abuse or cheating in our marriage, although he did sleep with somebody else during our separation. There are a variety of other reasons why we ultimately got divorced. After the initial feelings of failure and heartache, and there was an immense amount of heartache on my end despite being the one who filed for divorce, we were able to get along pretty well. It becomes platonic so quickly, and it's like when we removed the romantic and married relationship from the equation, things got so much better. We split time with our kids 50-50ths. That's really hard for me because being a mom is such a huge part of my identity that I still sometimes struggle to know what to do with myself during his time with the kids. Ultimately, I'm happy that he's a loving, involved father, and I'm glad that they do spend half their time with him, even if I still sometimes cry over not being with them all the time. We still do things together as a family sometimes. We sit together at our kids' activities, things like that. He has a girlfriend now. She seems nice. He met her not long after our divorce was finalized. It hurt. I cried way too much over it. He waited over 6 months to introduce her to our kids, which I was thankful for. My kids like her. Our youngest child was unexpectedly admitted to the hospital not long ago. He had surgery. In the grand scheme of things, it was a pretty minor surgery and he's absolutely fine now, but this is my baby and he had to spend multiple nights in the hospital, so this was a big deal for me. My ex-husband was there the entire time, being a great dad, being a supportive partner to me as I worried over every little thing. We spent all those nights in the hospital together and I remembered why I married him. He was always able to be the strong, level-headed rock for me. He was this safe person who I knew would take care of everything and protect me. When we were in the hospital, he told me that I'm the most important woman in his life. When our son was discharged, my ex-husband came back to my house. My baby was home safe. Our other 2 children were excited to be home after staying with my husband's sister for several nights. We were all together at home like a family again. That night after our kids were in bed, we had sex. I hadn't been hoping for it or planning it. It was just like as soon as the kids were tucked away in their rooms, we were having this intensely passionate, needy, amazing sex that we shouldn't have been having. We went to sleep in my bed and at some point in the middle of the night we had sex again. The next morning we both decided our emotions with the whole situation with our son just got the better of us. We said we didn't regret sleeping together, but that's all it was, and we were just going to go back to our normal divorce lives. We wouldn't make it awkward, just move on. Then I found out I was pregnant. We didn't use a condom. I don't even have condoms in my house anymore. I'm not on birth control. I haven't been since we divorced. I haven't needed it since I haven't had the time or interest to start dating again. I really wanted to be single for a while. I know I was ovulating when we slept together, which was probably a contributing subconscious factor as to why it happened. My body sees him being a good dad to our kids and it wants another. My cycle is like clockwork and we've always conceived on the first try every time we've tried to get pregnant. Our first kid was not even a try, It was 2 weeks before your wedding you find out you're pregnant and spend your honeymoon with morning sickness surprise. So now I'm about 8 weeks pregnant. I've known for about a week. I just told him this past weekend. I didn't know if I would tell him at all. I realize now that I only told him in hopes that he'd tell me what to do and figure the situation out for me. Only he didn't. I know it makes no sense to have a baby with somebody I chose to divorce. I don't need a fourth child. Why can't I let go of this though? Update 1. I posted about a week ago. My ex-husband and I have been divorced for about a year. We have 3 kids, ranging from 10, 5 years old. We have gotten along great since the divorce, better than when we were married. It's almost like we're friends, can do things with our kids, and enjoy being around each other. About 2 months ago, our youngest unexpectedly ended up having surgery and spending several nights in the hospital. He's fine now. My ex-husband and I stayed together with our son the entire time he was in the hospital. When he was discharged, my ex-husband came back to my house, or former family home, at our son's request. He was just supposed to spend a few hours there, help our son get settled, then go home. However, I guess all of the emotions and being together as a family in our former shared home got the better of us and we ended up having sex twice that night. Now I'm 9 weeks pregnant. I wasn't on birth control, was on it until after our divorce was finalized, but have been intentionally remaining single for a while and not involved with men in any way, so was giving my body a break from birth control. Initially we were undecided about what to do, but as of last weekend we made the decision together to have the baby. It feels sort of crazy to me. Definitely not a situation I ever imagined I'd find myself in. I already picture this baby looking just like our other kids. I guess that's why I struggled with the idea of not continuing with the pregnancy, which I know isn't really a valid reason to have a baby. This is probably the last baby I'll ever have. I'm 39, so even if I were to meet a man who I trusted enough to want to have a child with and a future with, I'll be well into my 40s by then. I plan to be very picky, but I'm not even at the point of wanting to find somebody new yet. We're not getting back together, for now. We get along great when we're not married and living in the same house. We feel it'd be irresponsible to all of our children to attempt to get back together right now because of this. Chances are higher that we'll be able to co-parent this baby successfully if we live separately. However, we are committed to working together to do what has to be done to take care of the baby when he or she gets here. Our kids are doing so great right now and they seem very happy and secure with the current setup of our lives and homes, so we want to stick with this for now. I don't know if I really understand what I'm getting myself into. Our other kids were all born into a marriage and a 2-parent home. I know that sharing custody of a baby will be a lot different than the kids going back and forth between homes. I might be feeling too positive about it, but I think it could work out fine. The new baby will just see this as normal, right? Next thing to worry about will be having to explain this to everyone when we tell them. My family and friends will get over it, but I'm especially concerned with explaining it to our kids. I'm worried our oldest won't take the news well. She also knows what sex is and how babies are made. And for everyone concerned about his girlfriend, she's not his girlfriend anymore. Top rated comment: these two are 100% getting back together within a year and then breaking up again in another. Update 2. Several people have asked me for an update on my situation. My ex-husband and I are having a baby. My other posts are on my profile. A recap is that we were married for 10 years, divorced for almost 1.5 years now, and have 3 kids together. We slept together twice during a stressful family time and I ended up pregnant. We've since admitted we are both still in love with each other, but have not actually declared that we're back together, mainly for the same of our kids. I last posted toward the end of January. I'm 28 weeks pregnant. We're having a little girl. As far as the pregnancy goes, it's been like a textbook pregnancy, and so I feel pretty good. Just more tired than I ever remember being during pregnancy before. My husband and I continue to live separately and share custody of our kids. We each have them 50% of the time. They're all aware that we're having a baby and none of them seem to be deeply confused or emotionally damaged by their divorced parents having a baby together. We explained it in an age-appropriate way. Our oldest child was more grossed out that her parents had sex than anything else, since she now understands what sex is and how babies are made. We've been involved with her quite a bit and she's excited now. I even took her to one of my appointments. She's excited to have a baby sister and she understands that mom and dad love her and her siblings, that we love this new baby, and that we love each other as people and as parenting partners without actually being together as a married couple in one house. Meanwhile, my husband and I have started to attend couples counseling. We tried marriage counseling when we were separated before we divorced, but I think we were both already pretty mentally done, so counseling didn't do much for us then. I think we're getting way more out of it now because we're actually invested in it and putting in a lot of effort. Sometimes I feel great after a session, and at other times I feel not so great and am reminded of reasons why we divorced. Overall, I think it's a good thing for us no matter what happens with our relationship. We've been sleeping together for the last few months. We already agreed that we won't be seeing other people at this time. I wouldn't be saying this while pregnant anyway, and it's not as if I'll even have time with 3 kids and a newborn. We agreed that we will not open ourselves to being with other people while we are working on our relationship and before that conversation is had between us. We are carrying on just as we have been since our divorce, as far as our kids are concerned. Dad doesn't spend the night at our house. We do things together as a family sometimes, but we were doing that even before anything was rekindled between us. We're not acting as a couple when we're together as a family. We're friendly with each other, but there is no holding hands, kissing, etc. Our main concern is our kids. We refuse to say we're back together. If we officially get back together, we really want to feel certain that it'd be for the long term, that we're ready to commit to that. We don't want to give our kids whiplash or do anything to make them insecure about our family. We would like to get to that point, but we aren't there yet. I think if my husband had his way, we'd be there. He's ready to say he's there now. He'd love to move back home. But he understands and agrees with my reasoning. I'd love for him to move back home too, based only on emotions. We both have things to work on, separately and together. I want to be a better spouse this time around. I thought I was being a really great wife and I was on the surface. I also know that right now I feel so in love and am hopped on hormones and pregnancy happiness. I always feel super happy, super positive, and super horny during pregnancy, and I know I have to be careful with trusting anything I feel during this time because it's like I'm on a 24/7 natural high. I think the biggest issue right now is that he's far more, let's throw caution to the wind, even though he agrees with all of my reasoning, and I want to be way more careful. Final update. I've made a few posts about my husband getting pregnant after we divorced. We were married for 10 years and had 3 kids before getting divorced. We got along so much better after we divorced and we have been really good co-parents during this time, but we were functioning strictly as friendly co-parents. We slept together around 1 year after our divorce was finalized and conceived a 4th baby, which we ultimately decided to keep. Our 4th child, a sweet baby girl, was born at the end of May. She's so perfect and we both feel we made the right choice to bring her into the world. It was the smoothest, easiest birth I've had and I take that as a sign. I feel like I fell in love with him all over again during labor and delivery, and that's when I knew I was ready to make our relationship official and public to everyone, including our children. Contrary to all the assumptions, our kids really don't seem to be negatively affected or confused about the baby. And I don't think the newest baby is getting any less love or attention than our 3 kids born within our marriage have. This is normal to them now. They understand we're still a family and no matter what we'll always be a family whether mom and dad live together. We are still living separately and technically still maintaining the custody schedule we had in place for our oldest 3 kids. Although, the kids are with me every weekday right now since it's summer break and I'm on maternity leave. We have a different arrangement for the baby, but he does take her overnight a few nights a week. I got our family home in the divorce and he spends time here with all of us. He has spent some nights here at home to help with the baby, but he doesn't stay in my bedroom quite yet. He has not moved in, although he has tried and continues to suggest it. This is probably the biggest point of contention these days. To me, this feels like the best of both worlds. I love him and truly don't want to be with anyone else. I think I sort of function better and am happier also living in my own space that he just visits. I know it's not the norm and some might say this means I don't really love him as much as I think. I really believe I'm just one of those people who needs more independence and alone time, and maybe we never would have got divorced in the first place if this had been the arrangement from the beginning. Is it sort of selfish? Maybe. I don't know anyone else with this arrangement, but I know some people out there do this. For all intents and purposes, we are together in a relationship again. We've made it official and exclusive, as juvenile as that sounds. We had already made it official between ourselves, but we hadn't really announced it to family and friends or our kids. We are still in love with each other or back in love with each other and we are not seeing anyone else. Our kids have adjusted well. They've been seeing a therapist since we filed for divorce, so that has really helped us navigate some of this. Prior to the baby's birth, we did not tell them that we were essentially in a relationship. Only so long you can keep that a secret from your kids. Even though they're young, they're perceptive. So we've recently explained to them that mommy and daddy love each other, but we get along better living in separate homes, and for now we think this is the best thing for our family. The only problem is that now they keep asking about when we will all live together again. I'm sure it's a little confusing to them, but I'm not sure how we could be handling it any better. We attempted marriage counseling when we separated, before divorce. It was not successful. I don't think either of us was 100% committed to it at the time. He really did not take it seriously back then, but I was more stubborn and resistant than I originally realized. We're in couples therapy now and it's like night and day compared to last time. I'm scared to live together again, so we aren't going to do that anytime soon. It's not that I don't trust him. I don't trust us as a couple. I refuse to put my kids through all of that again. So, getting remarried and moving in together isn't something in the plans right now. Maybe one day. I hope we can get to that point. I just don't want my kids to have to go through a divorce and splitting households yet again. I feel like they'd lose all trust in us then. OP on their living situation. I think it might be best for us to find a way to each have our own place next to each other or on the same property, instead of one actual house that we share. Other than not living together, we are together. It's no different than any other couple that's dating but doesn't live together. Well, it's a little different since we share kids and we were once married and I still usually refer to him as my husband, but not too different. We aren't keeping our relationship a secret anymore, so we aren't pretending to not be together. Everyone knows now. We spend a lot of time together. But yeah, he may eventually want more than I do, as in a relationship where we live together 24/7. At this point, the hubby's ex-GF was firmly in the rearview mirror and OP was still brushing it off as if it is no biggie, but I found one exchange that people may find interesting. OP, downvoted. Yes, he had a girlfriend at the time. It's in my post history and I'm not trying to hide it, but we have moved well beyond that now. Response. People are downvoting her comment because it is pretty black and white when it comes to cheating. Cheating hurts others and a lot of people value living in a world and having actions that don't result in hurting others. He was in a relationship and committed to his girlfriend when he decided that he had the right to sleep with his ex and not immediately tell her that he did it. She deserved better than to get trauma from someone who claimed to be committed to her, but was willing to step out on her. Cheating on someone does result in emotional trauma, which will affect how they will view love and relationships going forward. Personally, if he wasn't ready to be in a relationship with her, then he should have left her alone. I am tired of men in particular getting into relationships with women when they know they are not clearly over their ex-partner. It is a sign of selfishness and pure disregard of another human being's health. She was used as an emotional support and sex object by him, because no one that respects their partner would do something this cruel. So I'm not going to cheer on someone who could have just avoided this entire situation by not being in a relationship when he was clearly not ready to be in one, and hurt someone deeply. Edit, I want to add additional thought as well. Cheating is not only an emotional hurt but a sign that you give zero care about your partner's health. He was presumably still having sex with his ex-girlfriend after sleeping with no condoms with his ex-wife. With the rate of sexually transmitted diseases and infections increasing and the likelihood of the disease being antibiotic resistant, he told his ex that he had zero care for health and emotional well-being. She had the basic right to know that he slept with another person while still being intimate with her. Especially with no form of protection. Not calling the ex-wife dirty but with the risk of catching a disease that's incurable, or opens you up to higher risk of illness. Every person who is engaging in a sexual relationship deserves honesty. OP. All of this may be true. I'm not arguing anything you said. But I'd like to know what everyone on Reddit thinks we're supposed to do about it. We can't go back in time and undo what we did. Maybe Redditors feel that as an act of penance we should not be together, despite very much wanting to, since that's what we deserve for hurting her in the process. We should never be allowed to move on and have any happiness in our lives, together or separate, because we did something at one time that hurt somebody. Short of publicly flogging ourselves and maybe not allowing ourselves to ever be in a relationship with anyone ever again as a form of self-punishment, what are we supposed to do to satisfy the masses? Neither of us are proud of hurting somebody.
Am I the A for refusing to help a friend who excluded me from their wedding and now faces backlash for their poor treatment of our friendship? Original post, July 12, 2024. For about 11 years now, I, 37 years old, have been pretty close with John, who is 38 years old. We met at a job in my mid-20s, and we were pretty regular company until the pandemic. During the pandemic, our hangouts, including those with a circle of mutual friends, declined but did not become extinct. John and his partner, Jane, who is 36 years old, have been together for about 8 years now and engaged for a little under 2 years. Both have a child from previous relationships, so they have taken trips with their kids nearly every year. I have been happy to help by visiting John's, now their, home to check on things, take care of their animals, and so on while they are gone. I have helped them out with other projects and tasks over the years. Most recently, I picked up Jane from the airport when she returned from a work trip and got her home this past winter during a snowstorm because my vehicle could handle it. Generally, I have been present and helpful on top of our base friendship. About 5 weeks ago, I found out from a mutual friend that their wedding is coming up, and invites went out a while ago. Everyone in our circle but me was invited. As a gay guy, I've experienced being iced out of some of my straight friends' lives and events in ways minor and pronounced, but this one has definitely been something that has had me thinking about my time and energy with people. I decided I would take the hint and begin to distance myself. 3 days ago, John texted me asking if I'm around in early to mid-August. I say I am. John asks if I wouldn't mind visiting like I have before to look after the animals and property. I said, sorry, I can't. He calls to talk about it. We run through the same conversation, polite but a bit tense, so I finally say I just won't be visiting your home. After a moment of silence, I bring up that I'm disappointed that I appear to be the only person in our group of friends not invited to his wedding, and that I can't be helping like I have before if I'm just a background friend at this point. I wrap up the call positively and sincerely with me wishing them a good wedding and trip and that maybe we can grab drinks soon. Jane reaches out 2 days ago sending follow-up texts saying John is upset about what I said and with her because she made the final calls about friend invites, and that I'm taking this the wrong way, there is only so much capacity and that the others in our friend group have partners that took up space. She adds that she hopes I'll change my mind and help them out because it would put John's mind at ease. I'm not entitled to the company of others or invitations to anybody's events, but am I wrong for setting my own boundaries in response to theirs? I try not to frame my friendships as transactional, but they obviously want something out of me here despite their not inviting me and then avoiding even bringing it up with me until they needed help with covering their honeymoon. Verdict, not the asshole. Relevant comments. First, not the A. This sounds like a really one-sided friendship and they are taking your friendship for granted. Why would you keep putting time and energy into them? OP. Like I said, we have been pretty close up until now, and I have happened to have the availability when they needed it often enough. We were close enough before that I did not mind or feel taken advantage of. John has helped me as well in the past, and I try not to hold other people's lives and familial commitments against them, but I was trying to paint a concise picture, given the character limit, of being, as I thought, close. This situation, as I mentioned, definitely changed my perspective given the other friends invited. However, I wanted to make sure I was not making their wedding about me. They approached me after excluding me. So far, people seem to agree, which I'm relieved about. Second, not the A. Jane reached out 2 days ago, sending follow-up texts saying John is upset about what I said and with her because she made the final calls about friend invites. She mentioned that I'm taking this the wrong way, there is only so much capacity, and that the others in our friend group have partners that took up space. What a bogus excuse. If your friends need someone to check up on their animals and property when they are on their honeymoon after a wedding you were not invited to, they can ask another friend or family member. The audacity of some people astounds me. I believe in putting the same energy into a friendship as you experience. OP, I do not pretend to be super savvy about wedding etiquette, and I realize every wedding is different, and lines have to be drawn about who can come or not. However, my mutual friend reached out to me to coordinate plans for our friend group during the weekend of the wedding, only to find out I was not invited, definitely stung and felt awkward, and my friend was in disbelief as well. Third, not the A. Not even a little bit. And then to ask for help like it is no big deal. Shaking my head. What did your friend group have to say about it? OP, there was definitely some surprise. The only reason I found out was because one of them, who lives a bit further away, initially reached out trying to coordinate some plans and get-togethers around the weekend of the wedding, assuming I had been invited since John and I were close. I have let him follow up with the others, as I did not want to interject so close to the wedding and make it about me. Fourth, I think you have got some awkward times coming up. Please remember during them that this is not your fault. Despite what Jane said, you might still not know exactly what happened with you being on the guest list. John may be learning or realizing some big things right now, your friends may be considering some things, and you may be blamed for the results of this situation. Again, please remember that none of that is your fault. By your account, you have been incredibly gracious. By the way, I do not think I saw you mention it anywhere. What was John's reaction when you brought up the lack of a wedding invite? OP, I had to revise the original post and trim a lot of smaller details to get it to the character limit and capture the situation concisely. John did not say much. There was some silence after I cut through his line of questioning with the fact that I would not visit his home at all. I said my piece about not being able to help if I'm not invited with our other friends, and out of awkwardness, pivoted to the gracious wrap-up. Hope the wedding and trip are good, let's grab drinks soon. There was a pause and sort of collecting himself, then he said something like, thanks man, yeah, let's do that, before I decided to hang up. It was hard to peg down, but I picked up on some regret in his tone. Update. July 14, 2024. I previously posted about being passed over for an invitation to a wedding while being asked to perform a favor for the couple who did not invite me. Yesterday afternoon, a few days after John made the initiating contact that led to this altercation, he reached out by text telling me the following. I want to take you up on that drink tomorrow if possible, and I want to apologize for my royal fuck-ups in person. I agreed to meet. After we kicked off with a round of shots, John's first line was that he failed me as a friend in this situation. With non-family invites, Jane apparently seemed very preoccupied with a philosophy of couples over singles at the wedding, and he had previously voiced that he felt it was exclusionary and silly. But I guess Jane prioritized couples on the first round of friend invites and told John that it will be easier to fit in others after receiving RSVPs. It means please respond. John backed out and said he felt that going along with her initial plan of inviting the rest of our circle, who are, God bless them, coupled up, and not me, and had faith the RSVP thing would materialize. She ended up using a bit of space to plug in some more family. John admitted he basically folded and felt ashamed enough that he could not find a way to tell me. He knew reaching out to me about that favor was a risk but took it anyway because he wanted someone he could trust, and my response was a materialization of everything he feared would happen. And in his words, deservedly so. He told me a wedding should be a gathering of your family and company who have been a part of your lives and who you want to be part of your lives, and I fit that bill to him by any measure. He, trying to accurately paraphrase, said I've done more than most of the people on the guest list for him and his family over their relationship, including helping make memories with trip coverages and helping build their back deck with him to share meals and host events over the last 6 years. He got visibly upset when he said, with the shot and the drinks we were sipping on kicking in, that he can't believe Jane even considered holding my single or dating status against me after I got her home safely during a snowstorm earlier this year, and that he did not more adamantly confront that bullshit reasoning the instant she voiced it. He is even more pissed for Jane reaching out to me in the manner she did after my original phone call with him. John acknowledged that it would come off as hollow at this point, but after several exchanges with Jane he said there would be no more nonsense. He promised I would at least get a proper invite and a +1 if I wanted, and they would make it work if I even desired to attend at this point. He said he is not going to try to do panic damage control but will be upfront with our circle. One has already dropped out of the wedding, and I guess another couple has said something else, according to his report. He plans to be honest about his faults because he and Jane deserve the blowback, and he needs to earn back trust if it is at all possible. He has also made it Jane's problem to find a friend who can come out for 9 days in a row to care for the home and pets. With a smirk, he mentioned she is having a hard time securing it and may likely have to hire help. I told John I really appreciated his owning up to this, and it was good to see the friend I knew shine through. I told him that I have always appreciated his and Jane's friendship, so it hurt when I was excluded and not even addressed. I felt we were close enough anyway, and I obviously do not mean to complicate his wedding. I have always thought he and Jane were great for each other, earnestly. I have supported them as best as I could, and I have been confused about what I have done or have not done to be iced out. I also admitted it is hard to trust Jane again if she has been weighing the validity of my presence based on my relationship status. I added, with some humor, that it is not like I have not been trying and they have met some of my previous long-term partners. He said he does not get it either, and she has at least one good friend who is single that she may have burned a bridge with as well over the wedding philosophy she had. I said the friendship is going to be changed and informed by this, at least very different for a while. I know that he and Jane had a disagreement leading to this, but I hope that the wedding goes on to be a good celebration. I informed him it feels best to take a pass on the invitation, but he said if there was a change of mind, up to the last minute, to let him know. This was kind of him, and he was not desperate or pushy about it. John said the fault is his for not stepping up on my behalf, that he is sorry, and while he feels I would not expect otherwise, and I agree, he is very lucky to have her in his life and thinks their marriage is a positive development for them. He even told her this whole situation will have him questioning and second-guessing her judgment on social matters with his friends for the foreseeable future. By his reporting, but to their credit, this was quite a blow for her to hear from him, but one she accepted and apologized for after their arguments about the subject. Before we parted ways in the parking lot, we gave each other a bro hug, and John's voice broke a bit when he said he is sorry one last time, and I think mine did too when I forgave him. It was legitimately surprising and therapeutic to have John be so frank and accountable, but not unlike the friend I have known for most of my adult life. It was bittersweet, being all things considered a makeup but also a breakup of sorts to what was previously an unquestioned and assumed strong trust and camaraderie. Maybe we can get there again. It seems possible, and it would be nice. I am sitting here after weeks of big feelings, now stewing on a different shade of big boy feelings. Thanks for processing with me, Reddit. Additional information from OP. A lot of people had good things on the spectrum to share with me, and I have done my best to respond to people without getting too consumed and neglecting other things that need to be done. I was happy for John to talk with me. Maybe commenters are right and they see me as something different from what I thought we were as friends. And maybe I have got some work to do to assert myself and realize that I have been a doormat up to this point. I know I have some soul searching to do about myself and how I see myself with John and Jane, and maybe my other friendships as well. This relationship felt a lot closer and more authentic in a different time, but it is hard to paint a fuller picture of that after a situation like this. Things change. As tempting as it is to accept the invitation and be there for John, I think I trust my instinct to let this be, and if John meant what he said, and if Jane comes around, they will make the effort to follow up. I will be putting some distance between us for a while, and time will tell. I am glad we got a chance to talk, because if it is the end, I feel good about giving him a chance to own it. As I have gotten older, I appreciate the hard work of taking on uncomfortable stuff. I made some plans for that weekend with a couple of other friends, which I'm looking forward to. I find repeated updates on an initial post a bit messy and tacky, so if anyone wants my thoughts on particulars, just click my profile and look at my comments and responses. Thanks for the words and insights, Reddit. Relevant comments. Commenter: OP, how could a woman so terribly irrational and selfish be good for John? I mean, I couldn't have listened to her logic about the guest list for 5 minutes and John sucking it up like it's nectar of the gods. OP, I haven't seen this side of her before, and I believe John is a bit shocked by it. I can't know for certain if this is really her personality outside of my view though. I said in another response, but I believe that there are many parts of one's life where anyone, a friend or partner, can be of great benefit to you and then test your understanding with a wrong call. Those wrong calls vary in severity and scope, and I don't pretend to be a sage relationship expert, but she has helped him tremendously in the past 8 years. I have witnessed her kindness and the strength of the family they have forged and how much effort she has put into it. I am very surprised and hurt by the left turn she has taken in her wedding planning. I am giving her the benefit of time to come to her own steady senses to respond as she wishes. However, I take John's word that his admonishment of her judgment and actions, even if it was very late, meant something to her. I hope she will find the courage, maybe after this Bridezilla episode, to acknowledge it. Sooner would be better than later. I am practicing some distance for a while and want to give them space to prove this friendship wasn't a waste of time on my end. I think many Redditors are perfectly right to be angry. I still am, with her, and warn me against rolling over for them. I'm doing a lot of reflection and hoping I'm not being taken for a fool in all this. 11 years and a lot of good times and steady support in my own bumpy journey through adulthood. I hope some readers believe me when I say I have seen these two as a positive for each other. I have experienced them as a positive for me, even if this has caught me off guard and shown a side that is deeply short-sighted and hurtful. I could be wrong in all of this, but time will tell.
My love for my husband has been gradually dying since he forced me to choose between an open marriage and divorce. My husband, Leo, 34, and I, 30, have been together for 7 years, married for 4 of them. We don't have any kids and we don't intend to. 2 years ago, Leo asked me for an open marriage. I was devastated at the time. I couldn't understand why he didn't just want me. I couldn't even comprehend the idea of sharing him either. He gave me the same song and dance a lot of men give their spouses, swore up and down that he loved me. I just wasn't fulfilling his needs. He needed more than what I could give. It was just to spice up our life, it was just sex, etc. I did ask if there was someone else. He said no. To this day, I'm still not sure if I believed him. But at the time, I was angry and hurt and said no. He pestered me to change my mind for a week before giving me an ultimatum. Open marriage or divorce? I chose an open marriage. I just couldn't bear the thought of him leaving me at the time. We have rules. We can't bring any partners home. We have to get tested for STD every 3 months. 1 weekend out of the month must be left free for us time. Any money we spend on with our partners must come from our personal accounts. I didn't partake in the open marriage myself for the first 3 months. Leo obviously did right away. He seemed to be gone or out late almost all the time, but he always acted so happy and loving towards me while I felt like I was dying inside. It killed me to think he was sleeping with other women, and I felt so lonely and unattractive and not good enough. I told my sister, Katie, 26F, and a few close friends everything. Katie told me to just play his game and be part of the open marriage too. If he can sleep around, so could I. I honestly didn't have much confidence in myself at the time. I'm a bit overweight and I've never considered myself conventionally pretty. I was afraid this would just humiliate me further. Katie and my best friend Jessie, 30F, set up my online dating profiles for me. I got so many matches that it was overwhelming. When I told Leo, he was surprised, but told me to do whatever I thought was best. Jessie helped me choose my first date, and I actually had a great time. He didn't pressure me for sex and took me out to drinks and dinner. We did have sex eventually, but it was all just casual and we didn't see each other after a couple months of casual dating. That first guy really made me feel more confident in myself. So I kept going on dates with men. A lot of them wanted to treat me, so I didn't have to spend much of my own money. Not only that, but some of the men have given me the best sex I've ever had in my life. Almost like the kind of sex you read in romance novels. It's been amazing. I am currently seeing 2 different men, alongside Leo. One, Mark, 38M, is more of a steady boyfriend I've been with for about 6 months, and the one, Steven, 25M, is very casual. Mostly just hanging out and sex. They know about my open marriage, other relationships, and are fine with it. My husband has not been so lucky. In the beginning, he definitely was. He was always out and about and didn't seem to care even when I started dating too. But now he just complains a lot and hasn't been going out much. He whines about how he's usually the one spending money. A lot of the women he tries to be with want an emotional connection before sex. He often wants to be with younger women, but they want younger men. He's also been upset that I go out with random guys so often while he's at home alone all the time. He hasn't asked to close the marriage yet, but I feel like he will soon. He keeps saying he misses us and wants to spend more time together. He tried to initiate sex a lot more too. He wants to go on dates and go on vacations and all that stuff more and more, and he gets upset when I tell him I can't because I've already scheduled to do stuff with my partners, mostly Mark. Honestly, I don't think I love Leo anymore. I care about him, but I just don't love him. I'm not saying I love Mark or Steven, but I honestly feel closer to Mark nowadays than I do Leo. Mark makes me feel comfortable and safe, and I love spending time with him more than my own husband. Steven is funny and sweet and really good at sex. Katie and Jessie have been wanting me to divorce for a year now, but I was afraid of hurting him and thought I still loved him. But I think my love for him died when he asked for this open marriage in the first place. Seeing him get all pissy about it now just because he's not benefiting from it is also a turnoff for me too. But I don't know if divorce is the best option. I still care about him and I still don't want to hurt him. Maybe if he finally asks to close the marriage, we can talk about it then. Relevant comments. Comment 1, divorce. You're happier without him. He would only want to close the marriage because he can't get laid, not that he only loves you. OP. We've just been together for so long that the idea of him not being there feels weird. Which sounds stupid since I have 2 other partners, so it's not like I'll be lonely. But Leo was a part of my life for so long that for him to not be there just doesn't feel right. But you're probably right. OP on her husband dismissing her feelings regarding the open marriage. OP, I really do think Leo does love me, in his own way. Even when he was more active in the open marriage, he still made time for me and still did a lot with him. For me. But you're probably right on the divorce. Comment 2, part of the issue is the main relationship is supposed to be the important one, so the whole 1 weekend a month for us time wasn't enough. OP, I actually did argue that in the beginning, but he insisted that he needed to keep his weekends free. He did spend a lot of time at home during the weekdays, so in his mind, that made up for it. Comment 3. What if he finds evidence of your open marriage and frames you as a cheater and then brings you to the cleaners? At this point, I wouldn't trust Leo. What you're experiencing is normalcy. You're used to his presence in your life. But how long are you going to live like this? OP. Jesse had the same train of thought of you and actually took screenshots of his dating profiles during the beginning of the open marriage. She also told me to save screenshots of any texts we had about the open marriage. I don't think Leo would do that, but I also didn't think he'd ever ask for an open marriage. So what do I know? Update 1. Hi everyone. I got so many comments and messages on my last post, which got deleted for some reason, that I was a bit overwhelmed. Especially when a lot of you kept saying the same thing, divorce, divorce, divorce. But the thing is, I think a part of me still loves my husband. I know in my last post that I didn't think I loved him anymore, but I can't just forget about the things that I do love. I love when he sings in the shower. I love when he laughs so hard he snorts. I love when he kisses my forehead when I've had a bad day. I love when he holds my hand when he watch TV together. Leo has done a lot of shitty things, but he really isn't the big asshole people think. Maybe that was my fault. But even if I do still love him, I'm not in love with him anymore. I don't think I have been for a while. I care about him, a part of me does still love him, but you all were right. I should have just divorced him when he gave me that ultimatum in the first place. This past Saturday, we had the big talk. I initiated it, but he didn't seem too surprised. I just told him that I noticed he didn't seem to like me going out with Mark or Steven and asked if there was a problem. He said there was. But he didn't ask me to close the marriage. He just asked me if I still loved him. I said something like, not like I used to. He broke down crying, which made me cry. I guess he had known for a while that I wasn't in love anymore, but he had hoped he could win me back if he funneled all of his energy into me. I was honest and told him that during those first 3 months of our open marriage, I think my love for him died and I just couldn't get it back. I did tell him that I still cared about him and that I did love him, but it's not the same as it was. He asked if I loved Mark or Steven, and I said no. I like being with them and I care about them a lot, but I can't say I'm in love with either of them. I also finally asked him why he wanted the open marriage in the first place. A lot of you in the comments said he already had someone lined up and you were right. He had someone at work he was interested in and she wanted him too. The open marriage was just to get permission. He honestly never expected me to also get my own partners because of how unconfident I was, but he didn't want to stop me either because he thought nothing would come of it. He didn't really like me seeing other men, but he knew it wouldn't have been fair to tell me no when I gave him permission first. I guess Mark and Steven made him insecure because I was spending so much time with them on a regular basis. The open marriage was just sex on the side for him. He only did hookups and they never lasted long. He genuinely always just loved me. But he thought I was falling in love with my partners and he was losing me and wanted to win me back. We cried a lot and talked a lot. We've decided to get a divorce. Since the house is in his name, I'm going to move out and live with Katie for a while. He told me I didn't have to and I could stay until the divorce was finalized, but I just can't. It's too hard to even look at him sometimes. I don't know how I feel, to be honest. I thought I would be relieved or sad, but I'm just tired. I wish I could have been like you all wanted me to be, clapping back or being sarcastic and snarky or rubbing it in his face, but I don't feel like I've won anything. I just feel lost. Relevant comments. Comment 1. I'm wondering if maybe the other woman ended it so now he was back to what he was comfortable with, his wife. He went and had his fun and when that died out, he was not left with a wife waiting for him at home. OP, he and his coworker were only sleeping together for maybe a month. She fulfilled his kinks that I never liked indulging in. That's why he was with most of his partners, because I wasn't interested in his kinks. Comment 2, he stepped out of this marriage first and tried to have his cake and eat it too. The thing with open marriages is that you can never count on how emotions will change. Sex is a very intimate action and many people will develop emotional connections. Those connections come at a price. He placed a bet and he lost. At least he's man enough to acknowledge it and own up to it. There is no easy answer. OP, I wish you healing OP. Thank you. Leo just thought the open marriage would be a way for him to get all of his kinks he couldn't do with me, because I wasn't into it. He knew how unconfident I was, which wasn't because of him. A lot of people seem to think that he eroded my self-esteem but he didn't. We can thank my mother for that, but that's a whole other can of worms. So he never expected me to partake in the open marriage either. Comment 3, so he never expected me to partake in the open marriage either. So basically, while he asked for a mutually open marriage, he expected it to be only his side open and then got hurt that reality didn't meet his expectations. OP, Leo admitted that he did only expect his side to be open. He was never going to stop me from opening my side, but like I said, he didn't think I would. TBH, I don't think I would have either if it wasn't for Jesse and Katie pushing me and making profiles for me.
I'm divorcing my husband due to his autism impacting our life. How can I end things respectfully while considering his feelings and needs? When I first met my husband, who is now 30 years old, I knew he had autism. We met at university and it never seemed to be a problem at the time. He was what you would describe as quirky, but we fell in love and eventually got married. For a while, everything seemed to be going well despite his autism. Over time, however, he developed some sensory issues, which meant that I had to take on the majority of the housework. I didn't really mind initially because I was pursuing my MA while he went to work. However, as time passed, his autism became more noticeable and began to affect our daily lives in more significant ways. At first, I couldn't have my girlfriends over without giving him a week's notice, and eventually, it became completely off the table. I accepted that he didn't like other people entering our space, so we had our hangouts at my friends' places instead. Then I had to start doing chores on his schedule so he could be mentally prepared for the noise of the vacuum. These were all small adjustments, but they began to add up. A few weeks ago, it hit me that I wanted out of this marriage. I recently finished my PhD and got a job offer in a different state. It is a fantastic offer, and I want to take it. I started looking at places to live, but many of them were already out of the question because they wouldn't accommodate my husband's many rules and sensory needs. As I was searching for new places, I realized that I want to get a divorce. I want to move and be able to vacuum when I want and have friends over whenever I choose. I want to eat out without having to check that the restaurant doesn't play loud music, and I want to eventually meet someone who is capable of doing half of the housework. My decision has been made, but now I face the difficult task of telling my husband that I am leaving. I want to do it respectfully, but at the same time, I feel like he deserves to know why I'm making this decision. I think I am leaving him because he has autism, and I fear that this truth will break him and at the same time make me feel like a horrible person. It is a delicate situation, and I'm not sure how to approach it. I care about him deeply and do not want to hurt him, but I also need to think about my own happiness and well-being. I hope to find a way to explain my feelings honestly without causing him unnecessary pain. Relevant comments. Comment 1. Don't tell him you're leaving him because he's autistic. He's always been autistic and always will be, and you're not leaving him because he's autistic. Focus on the actual reasons. That his needs and boundaries aren't compatible with yours anymore. That your relationship isn't equitable and you're unhappy. That you are not okay being in a relationship where you do 100% of the housework, can never have anyone over, and have to plan everything around his schedule. It's harder when there's a valid underlying reason, but all these things would be true if he wasn't autistic. Comment 2. Yes, this. Usually, you should not tell someone with a disability that their disability is why you're leaving them. At all. If their disability is what makes them incompatible with you, then you should tell them they're incompatible, but don't say that the incompatibility is due to the disability. Comment 3. He will know whether you tell him or not. I have had guys break up with me over my PTSD. Listing my PTSD symptoms, but not naming my PTSD doesn't fool me. I am not an idiot because I'm disabled. Comment 4. That's pretty cruel honestly. It sucks either way, but it's extremely clear that the reason she's leaving is his autism has progressively gotten worse, which is not uncommon. The problems he has are things you can work on, but she's clearly not interested in doing that because it can take years before even slight progress is made. She should tell him because it's the truth. Comment 5. I disagree, and we're taking all the blame away from the husband here because of his disability. I don't care about his supersensibility or whatever, he could just leave the house or find a way. It's the adult thing to do, to try to make up for the things you lack instead of just dumping your problems onto your partner. But he's just letting the wife progressively have more and more work. Relationships are based on boundaries and agreements. Each party gives something in it. That is determined at the start of the relationship, and while some can change, both parties have to agree with it. The husband changed because of his disability, but instead of finding a new way to make things work, the wife just had to progressively take on more and more work. I get it. Autism isn't nice to have. It can be horrible, but The wife isn't his caretaker. She doesn't have the responsibility for that. It's cruel, yes. But she has to just deal with his problems without his help. It's cruel to her. Comment 6. Yes, she is 100% leaving him because of his autism. If he was not autistic, she would stick around. He's not just an asshole. He has a disability she can no longer deal with. Downvote me all you want, but she should definitely be honest with him, especially since he has autism. He likely won't understand otherwise. Comment 7. Nope, she's leaving him because he doesn't help her and she feels isolated from the rest of the world. The only reason this behavior is in any way excusable is because he has a neurodivergent. If anything, one could argue she only stayed with him because he has autism, because without that explanation for the behavior, we'd all be calling him a man-child and probably worse things. He is not a man-child. He's neurodivergent, but he still isn't behaving like a partner. Comment 8. She's not leaving him because he has autism. She's leaving him because she can no longer live with some of the specific things caused by his autism. There's a huge difference. People with autism have their own individual struggles and concerns, and the levels of intensity vary vastly as well. If he were struggling with things that weren't causing such a disruption in her day-to-day life, she may not leave him. That's an important distinction. Comment 9. You're not leaving him because he's autistic. You're leaving him because he is unwilling to compromise. Take it from a married autistic man, marriage is still just as much a give and take as it is for neurotypicals. That being said, he may not realize the impact he is having on you. If he isn't, then it may be a good idea to, either through a series of conversations or therapy, express what you're feeling in a direct manner with specific examples, assuming you haven't done this already. Comment 10. You could tell him that you wanted a partner that equally helps with the house, but it's slowly become your sole responsibility. Marriages are about compromises, but it seems that you've been the one who has to do all the compromises to keep him happy, which has led to your resentment of him. Instead of him managing and taking responsibility for his new sensory issues, he's dealt with it by avoiding it. You're not divorcing him because of his autism, but because of always putting his needs first. You've come to realize that the two of you aren't compatible anymore and can't both have your needs met while keeping the other happy. Highlight comment. Can I also say that these are manageable things? I have ASD and extremely painful sensory processing, like your husband. But I still find ways of managing my house and life. For example, I don't like the vacuum, but I'll use a broom or set my little robot vacuum to do things when I'm not around. The same goes for the washing machine and dryer. I just set them for a time when I'm not around. I also have ear defenders, like concert plugs and noise-canceling headphones, that help me get through chaotic environments. I'll tend to pack away and do the dishes myself because I know I won't clang them, which would normally set off a migraine. I use gloves for nasty textures and have a predictable routine that helps with flexibility around unpredictable things. Also, when having your girlfriends over, does he not have a quiet space in his own home where he can go off and recharge? That's really necessary in general for sensory management. It would feel like chronic torture otherwise. It's not the ASD that's the reason. It's his approach to managing it and the way he's shifting the responsibility onto you. Has he ever gone to therapy or seen an occupational therapist for help on how to navigate adult life? Medication and therapy for both the physical and emotional pain changed my life. Maybe they can help him too? It is kind of disappointing that your reasoning behind this is because he has autism. And you don't want to make an effort to understand your partner's lifelong struggles or try to approach a workable solution. These are things that can be changed, somewhat easily too compared to other issues, and help him for the better. There are so many workable solutions that it is kind of frustrating. What I'd be more upset about is that he isn't trying to contribute to the maintenance of the house and relationship, which is not an autism thing. It's just male entitlement. Just don't blame him for something he can't change. He cannot change that he is autistic. He can change the way he manages it and be fair in supporting you. Be very, very clear with that distinction when you talk to him. Update. It's been 3 days since I posted about wanting to leave my husband because his autism has made it impossible for me to live a normal life. Some of you suggested that he may be using his autism to get out of doing housework, and I'm afraid you were not wrong. Yesterday, I sat him down and explained that the situation had reached a point where I am no longer happy, and I haven't been for a while. I told him that I no longer love him and that there is zero attraction left. However, I still care for him and I assured him that I was willing to continue paying my share of the rent. We split everything 50/50 for 3 more months after I move out so that he has enough time to find a place that suits his needs. He did not take the news well at all. First, he begged me to reconsider, but I stood firm in my decision. Then he accused me of being ableist for leaving him because of his autism. After the tactic didn't work, he admitted that he had simply become too comfortable with me doing everything around the house and that he was now willing to go to therapy with me. Despite his willingness to make changes, I told him that my decision was final. I have already accepted the job offer and will be contacting a divorce lawyer next week. I also informed him that, while I still won't have people over out of respect for him, he will have to start doing his own chores from now on. Just a side note to everyone who assumed that he financed me. University is free here, and you get paid to do your PhD. I teach classes and do field work, so I have been financially independent throughout our relationship. Anyway, that's all for now. I'm excited for the future and am looking forward to being able to have friends over again without any restrictions. Thank you all for your support and advice during this difficult time. Relevant comments. One commenter shared, "My girlfriend and I both have chronic conditions, and she is autistic. I can just manage a day's work, and she can just manage a bit of housework each day. We both put in every ounce of energy we have to make life as best we can as a couple, and her autism doesn't stop that." Another commenter replied, "Well done to you two. It sounds like you're both giving it your all." A different commenter expressed surprise at OP's generosity. "I'm honestly surprised you're going to pay for half of his rent for 3 months. You should get your stuff, leave and only contact him through a lawyer. He's no longer your responsibility." Someone else replied, "OP, you're a really, really good person. I really hated the nasty comments some people left. Everyone was on their high horses, but I'm sure no one would put up with the nonsense you did. You get one shot to be happy in life, and you would have been miserable if you didn't make this change. Could you imagine if you wanted kids? You'd either have them with this guy or be forced to forego it to care for your spouse forever. Never let anyone think you did anything other than the exact right thing here. You're going above and beyond for him. Good luck, you deserve happiness." Another commenter encouraged OP, "Good on you for leaving and standing firm in your decision. You deserve to be happy and nothing less. You deserve to be valued and appreciated. I think your husband will see his fault in all of this, hiding behind his autism, and will be forced to stop doing it because you won't be around to take care of him. He's not your problem anymore." Finally, one commenter shared their personal experience. "I was diagnosed with Asperger's as a teenager. These days my condition is called high-functioning autism, and I do the most housework in my family during the week. He is not physically disabled. He's just using autism as an excuse, which is a shame. Good for you for realizing and getting out. I hope you can soon find someone who values you and isn't just taking advantage. All the best." Highlight comments. Comment 1. I have had ADHD my entire life and was diagnosed at a very young age, before I was 5 years old, although back then they called it ADD. I ride longboards, but noises from people in traffic bother me, so I wear noise-canceling earbuds. I literally cannot balance on a longboard or skateboard unless I block out a lot of surrounding noise. I get vertigo and lose my balance even when I'm just standing if there are certain noises bothering me. I discovered that ADHD places me somewhere on the autism spectrum as well. While I have always had issues with noises, I do not make other people change their lives to revolve around me and my disorders. There are plenty of options available, such as noise-canceling headphones, earbuds, and earplugs, which this man could have used. He simply did not want to take these measures. My ex did the same kind of thing to me as well. In fact, my ex went as far as to fake his problems. I also have bipolar disorder, and my ex started lying to our doctor and pretending he had it too, using it as an excuse to abuse me at home. Every time he yelled at me, had a mood swing, or pushed me, he claimed it was because he was bipolar. The truth is, he is not bipolar. I am the one with bipolar disorder. I know this might sound harsh, but he might not even have autism in the first place. My ex read books on bipolar disorder to fake it better, and this man might have studied autism and blamed every bad habit on it. People do that, you know? My ex was getting medication for bipolar disorder but was stashing it without taking it. I found months and months of medication packages he was not using, despite getting them filled at the pharmacy to make it look like he was taking his meds. I have his container of meds and a package, and I've already shown it to a lawyer to prove that he lies about having mental health issues. Comment 2. I have ADHD and autism has been suspected but not yet diagnosed. Life can definitely be tough for me sometimes. I struggle with loud and dissonant noises, surprises, and unexpected changes. I get overwhelmed easily, tend to shut down, and experience major anxiety. I understand that it can make functioning difficult at times, and sometimes I need my significant other to be patient with me. However, it is still not an excuse to never do anything and hold your spouse's life hostage. In this case, the individual was definitely using excuses and taking advantage of the situation.
This is fucked up by texting my date that I might end up marrying him just seconds after our date ended. This just happened to me. Literally 10 minutes ago. I am dying. I am dead. End me now, oh Holy Ghost. I thought this only happened in some poorly written rom-coms. The kind where life hardly imitates the real one. I want to bury myself and never come to see the light again. Why me? Oh, why me? 10 painfully long minutes ago, I, exalted by the wonderful date I went with this handsomely gorgeous man who also happened to be a friend of mine for the last 3 years, against my apartment door that I had just closed on his beautiful face, I typed these words that will fiercely haunt me now. Bitch, I think I'm going to end up marrying this guy. This was meant for my best friend, the only other soul I could muster to express my vulnerable feelings. I sent this deeply poetic text to him instead. Do you think there is a void big enough in this planet to hold all my misery? All the embarrassment? Do you think I can make a pact with the devil to turn back time? I would just need 10 minutes. That'd be really nice. Can I please die now? Literal and metaphorical death is the only relief I might know. I am currently in my library, sprawled across the floor intently staring at the ceiling. Man, I think I'll be here forever. TLDR, I mistakenly texted my date that I might end up marrying him as we just ended our date. Realized too late the text meant for my best friend was sent to him instead. Bitch, I owe you an update. Good news, there's so much staring at the ceiling one can do before pure boredom kicks in and the realization that the desire to scream fuck 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 at the top of your lungs will most likely not last for an eternity. Bad news, you guys did me dirty by blasting my still fresh embarrassment on the front page and apparently on a famous Portuguese radio show this morning. Cool. So, on to the meaty love update. Once I realized the text blunder, I quickly texted him that it was not meant for him, with a crying emoji for good measure. Sweet man that he is, he responded immediately to let me know that he doesn't read texts not meant for him. I subsequently asked for permission to die. He said. Please don't. This morning, he texted me about some travel plans we have down the line. Bless this handsome man. The gods are cruel, but not that cruel. This is where I should clarify that the original post was obviously a tad hyperbolic, just like that text, go figure. I slept well last night, and I also laughed. At myself, the blunder, just the ridiculous timing. What also got imprinted on me was that exact moment I wrote and sent that text. The moment he leaned and kissed me goodnight, I looking at him as I closed my apartment door, locking it and at once turning around and heavily sighing and smiling, keys still in hand. 2 weeks ago he had proposed going on a walk at the park. I had an inkling somehow that after knowing each other for 3 years, he was going to finally, perhaps, become vulnerable and share a few things. I had been in a series